Hi, everyone. I'm so happy you're here with me today. Are you ready to practice English with me? Let's have fun and learn together. Today, I will tell you a beautiful story. While you listen, you will also practice speaking English using the shadowing technique. Here's how it works. First, listen to each sentence I say, then repeat the sentence after me. Copy my tone, copy my speed, copy my pronunciation, just like a shadow. This will help you speak English more clearly and more confidently. Now, let's begin the story. It's called The Gift I Never Expected. This story is about a smart young woman, a special trip, and an unexpected love. My name is Nisha. I am 23 years old. I work in a big company in the city. I love my job. I am very serious about my work. I always try my best. One day, something exciting happened at work. Our manager made an announcement. He said, there will be a competition. Every employee must give a short presentation. The best presentation will win a special gift. I felt excited, but also a little nervous. I really wanted to win. So I worked very hard. I stayed late at the office every night. I wrote my speech again and again. I practiced many times. I made colorful, beautiful slides. I wanted everything to be perfect. Finally, the presentation day arrived. I wore my best dress. I looked in the mirror and took a deep breath. I'm ready, I told myself. When it was my turn, I walked to the front of the room. My hands were shaking a little, but I smiled and began to speak. I talked clearly and with confidence. I shared my ideas with passion. When I finished, everyone clapped. I felt proud. After all of the presentations were done, our boss stood up. He said, I'm very happy with all of you, but one person gave a truly special presentation. He looked at me and said, the winner is Nisha. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. Everyone clapped again. I smiled and stood up slowly. The boss said, your gift is a trip to the Maldives, a 3-day holiday, fully paid. My eyes got wide. The Maldives. I had never been there before. It sounded like a dream. That evening, I went home and told my parents. They were so proud of me. They hugged me tightly. My mother smiled and said, you worked hard, my daughter. You deserve this gift. I smiled and nodded. I felt so happy. That night, I packed my bag with joy in my heart. I couldn't wait for the trip. On the morning of my journey, I left home early. The company had arranged a big cruise ship for the trip. I was going to the port. The sky was clear blue. The wind was cool. Everything felt perfect. But then, something unexpected happened. As I walked near the dock, a group of boys came toward me. They looked angry. Suddenly, they tried to grab my bag. I shouted, help, help. I was scared. My heart was beating fast. Then, out of nowhere, a young man ran up to us. He shouted, leave her alone. He pushed the boys away. He was tall and strong. He fought them. Finally, the boys ran away. I looked at him, still shocked. He looked at me and asked, are you okay? I said, yes, thank you so much. He smiled and said, be careful. This area is not very safe. I nodded quickly. Thanks again, I said. Then I hurried toward the ship. When I reached the cruise, I showed my ticket and went on board. The ship was huge and beautiful. I walked around slowly, looking at everything. I found my room. It had a big window with a view of the sea. I sat down and took a deep breath. The adventure was just beginning. After I rested in my room, I went out to explore the ship. I walked to the deck and looked out at the sea. The water was deep blue and endless. The wind touched my face gently. It felt peaceful and free. Then I saw someone standing a few steps away. He was looking at the sea too. He turned his head and I couldn't believe it. It was the same man who saved me at the dock. He looked at me and smiled. He walked over and said, hello again. Looks like we're on the same trip. I laughed and said, wow, what a surprise. I didn't expect to see you here. We started talking. His name was Arav. He was 25 years old. He worked in marketing at another company. He also won the trip because of his work. He said, I gave a presentation too. I guess we both did a great job. We smiled at each other. It felt easy to talk to him. We walked around the ship together. We talked about work, about our lives, and even our favorite foods. He liked spicy food. I liked sweet things. We both loved watching movies and traveling. Soon, We became friends, very good friends. We laughed a lot together. I felt comfortable around him. The ship moved smoothly through the ocean. The sun began to set. The sky turned orange and pink. We stood at the back of the ship and watched the sunset together. It was quiet. It was beautiful. The next morning, we arrived at the Maldives. It was even more beautiful than I had imagined. The sea was crystal clear. The sand was white and soft. Palm trees danced in the breeze. Our company had booked a beach resort for us. Each person got their own beach house. Mine was lovely. It had a small balcony and a view of the sea. I put on a light dress and walked to the beach. Arav was already there. He waved at me and smiled. I smiled back. We spent the whole day together. We went swimming in the clear blue water. We played beach volleyball with some other guests. We drank fresh coconut water and laughed in the sun. At night, the resort had a beach party. There were lights hanging from the trees. Soft music played in the background. People were dancing and laughing. Arav and I sat by the water. The waves touched our feet. We talked about our families. He told me stories from his childhood. I shared memories from mine. Then he looked at me and said, "Nisha, you're really smart. I like your ideas. And your energy." I felt shy. No one had said that to me before. But I looked at him and said, "I'm glad we met too." We smiled. It felt like something special was growing between us. The next day, we went on a boat ride together. The boat was small and open. We sat side by side and watched the sea. Suddenly, we saw dolphins jumping near the boat. They were beautiful and playful. We took photos and laughed. I looked at Arav. He was laughing and pointing at the dolphins. His eyes were full of joy. I felt happy too. But deep in my heart, I was a little confused. I was starting to like him, more than just a friend. But did he feel the same? I didn't know. So I kept my feelings quiet. I just enjoyed the moment. On the last evening of our trip, the company organized a special dinner. It was a beach dinner under the stars. There were small tables in the sand. There were candles, soft music, and the sound of the waves. I wore a blue dress that flowed in the breeze. Arav wore a white shirt and light pants. He looked different, more relaxed, more thoughtful. He smiled when he saw me. "You look beautiful," he said. I smiled and said, "Thank you. You look nice too." We sat together on a blanket in the sand. There were many people around, but I only noticed him. We ate grilled fish and fresh salad. We drank cold juice with pieces of fruit inside. The music played softly in the background. We didn't talk much at first. We just looked at the sky. It was full of stars, bright, shining stars that looked like diamonds. Then we started to talk, not about work or movies, but about life. He asked me, "What do you want to do in the future?" I said, "I want to grow in my job. Maybe start my own company one day." He nodded. "That's amazing." He said, "I want to do something meaningful too, something that helps people." We sat quietly for a while. Then suddenly, boom, a loud sound came from the sky. Everyone looked up. It was fireworks. Bright colors filled the sky: red, blue, gold, green. People started cheering. It felt magical. But then something unexpected happened. It started to rain. Not heavy rain, just soft, warm drops falling from the sky. People ran to find cover, but Arav and I stayed where we were. He looked at me. His eyes were soft and kind. He said, "I don't know what this is, but I feel very close to you. You are more than a friend." I felt my heart beat faster. The words I had been hiding inside wanted to come out. I looked at him and said, "I feel the same." He gently reached for my hand. I let him hold it. His hand was warm. We sat there in the rain, not talking anymore. We didn't need to. The sound of the waves, the soft music, the rain falling around us. It was a perfect moment. No big words, just feelings. That night, I didn't sleep much. I kept thinking about everything. The presentation, the trip, the beach, and Arav. I didn't know what would happen next, but I felt something had changed. Something real had started. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over the sea. It was our last day in the Maldives. The trip was almost over. I packed my things and looked around my little beach house. I felt a little sad to leave. This place had given me more than just rest and beauty. It gave me memories, and something I never expected. When I stepped outside, Arav was already waiting near the resort gate. He waved at me and smiled. "Ready to go?" he asked. I nodded. We took the bus back to the port. The same big cruise ship was waiting to take us home. As the ship moved across the sea, we stood at the deck together. The wind was soft. The ocean sparkled under the sun. It felt peaceful. We didn't talk too much. Sometimes, silence can be comfortable when you're with the right person. Later, we reached the airport. Everyone was saying goodbye. Some people took photos, some hugged, some just waved and left quietly. Ariv turned to me and said, "This is not the end. This is the beginning." I looked into his eyes. He looked serious, but calm. I smiled and said, "I hope so." He held my hand for a moment. Then we walked toward our gates. He flew to his city. I flew to mine. But something had changed. That very evening, I got a message from him. "Did you reach home safely?" He wrote. I smiled as I typed back, "Yes." "And you?" He replied, "Yes, but I already missed the beach." "And you?" From that day, we started talking every day, in the morning, at lunch, in the evening, sometimes short messages, sometimes long phone calls. We talked about small things, our day at work, what we ate, what we saw, and we talked about big things too, our dreams, our fears, and our future. Every weekend, we met in person. Sometimes I traveled to his city. Sometimes he came to mine. We explored new cafes. We walked in parks. We watched movies and laughed at silly jokes. We didn't rush. We took our time. We learned about each other's lives, habits, and families. I found out he liked to listen to music before sleeping. He learned that I loved baking on Sundays. He was patient. I was careful. But slowly, something beautiful grew between us. One quiet evening, while we were walking in the park, he stopped and looked at me. "Nisha," he said, "I know we met in a strange way, but I think it was meant to be. Will you be my girlfriend?" I looked at him and felt my heart smile. "Yes," I said. That moment felt like magic, like the fireworks on the beach. But even better because it was real. After that day in the park, things began to change slowly but beautifully. RF and I were no longer just friends. We were a couple now, a real one. It felt new, but also natural. We still lived in different cities, but the distance didn't feel too hard. We made time for each other. We planned our weekends carefully. We took turns visiting each other. Sometimes he would surprise me. One Saturday, I opened my door and he was standing there with flowers and a big smile. "I missed you," he said. I couldn't stop smiling all day. Sometimes I surprised him too. I baked his favorite cookies and took the train to his city. We had a picnic in the park and laughed like kids. We did simple things, but they felt special because we were together. During the week, we stayed connected. We sent good morning texts. We called each other after work. Sometimes we watched the same movie at the same time. While video calling, it felt like we were in the same room. My parents were happy for me. They liked Arov a lot. He was kind and respectful. He called them auntie and uncle, and always brought small gifts when he visited. One evening, my mom said, "You look different now." Nisha, happier, softer. I smiled and said, "Yes, I feel different too." At work, I was doing better than ever. I felt more confident, more focused. I had a new energy. I guess when your heart is happy, everything else feels better too. Arav also grew in his career. He got a promotion and started leading a team. I was so proud of him. We celebrated each other's success. When I finished a big project, he sent me a cake with a card that said, "You're amazing. Keep shining." We didn't need big gifts or fancy trips. We just supported each other, and that meant everything. One day, while walking near a lake, I looked at him and said, "Do you ever think about how we met?" He laughed. "Of course, I saved you from those boys." "Remember?" I laughed too. Yes, that day was scary. But now, I'm glad it happened. He looked at me gently. "Me too. I never thought a random moment could change my life." I nodded. "Same for me. I thought the best gift was the trip, but it was really you." He didn't say anything right away. He just took my hand and held it tight. Sometimes, the right words are not big or clever. Sometimes, they're simple and true. "I'm lucky we found each other," he said. And in that quiet moment, I knew this was just the beginning of our story. Our relationship continued to grow. Step by step, we didn't rush. We took time to understand each other deeply and honestly. Of course, Not every day was perfect. Sometimes we had small misunderstandings. Sometimes we were both tired from work and didn't talk much. Sometimes we disagreed on little things, like where to eat or which movie to watch. But we always talked about it. We listened. We learned how to say, "I'm sorry," and mean it. We learned how to be patient and kind, even during stressful days. One weekend, we went hiking in the mountains. It was my first time hiking, and I was a little scared. "Don't worry," Arav said. "I'll walk beside you the whole time." And he did. When I got tired, he slowed down. When I slipped on a rock, he held my hand. At the top of the hill, we saw a beautiful view of the valley below. The sun was setting behind the trees. Everything looked golden. I took a deep breath and said, "This is amazing." He smiled at me and said, "You're amazing too." After that trip, I felt something even stronger in my heart. I trusted him not just with my feelings, but with my fears and hopes too. He became my safe place. Later, he invited me to meet his parents. I was nervous at first. What if they didn't like me? But they were warm and kind. His mother made a delicious dinner. His father told funny stories. They treated me like family. After the meal, his mother took my hand and said, "You are always welcome here." I smiled and felt a soft warmth in my heart. It felt like home. Arav also spent more time with my parents. He helped my father fix the garden light. He made tea for my mom and listened to her stories. They liked him more with each visit. We started planning more things together. Not just weekend trips or dinners, but bigger things like saving money, learning new skills, and thinking about the future. We supported each other's goals. I joined a night class to improve my public speaking. He encouraged me every day. He took an online course in digital marketing. I helped him practice his presentations. We were a team, and being part of a team felt good. One night, while we were sitting on my balcony, I looked at him and asked, "Did you ever think life would turn out like this?" He thought for a moment. Then he said, "No, but I'm so glad it did." I nodded. "I'm glad too." We sat quietly after that, holding hands, listening to the city sounds. The world felt calm, and my heart felt full. Time moved forward, and so did we. Our relationship grew stronger with every season. Soon, we had been together for almost a year, but it didn't feel long. It felt like we had always known each other. We had built many memories. Sweet mornings, long conversations, lazy afternoons, silly jokes, quiet walks, warm hugs, all simple things, but all full of love. We also faced challenges. There were busy weeks when we barely talked. There were days when work was hard, and we felt tired or stressed, but we always came back to each other. We always made time to listen. One Friday evening, Arav called me after a long, tiring day. "I just needed to hear your voice," he said. I smiled. "Same here." Sometimes love isn't about big moments. It's about small ones, checking in, showing up, saying, "I'm here." One weekend, we went on a short trip to a quiet town near the hills. We stayed in a small wooden cabin. There were no busy roads, no tall buildings, just trees, stars, and silence. We cooked together, read books, and walked through the forest. One night, we sat by a small fire outside the cabin. The sky was full of stars again, just like that night on the beach. Arav turned to me and said, "Do you believe in fate?" I looked at him, a little surprised. "I don't know," I said, "but I believe in right timing." He nodded. I think we were meant to meet, maybe not earlier, maybe not later, but just at the right time." I smiled. "I agree." He looked serious for a moment. "Do you ever think about the future?" he asked. "About us?" I looked at the fire, then back at him. "Yes," I said softly. "I do." He reached out and held my hand. "Whatever happens," he said, "I want to grow with you, not just love you when it's easy, but also when it's hard." His words touched me deeply, because that's what I wanted too. Not just romance, but real love, a strong, steady partnership. We sat there quietly, holding hands in the cool air, knowing that something deep and true was growing between us. After that trip, something changed, not in a dramatic way, but we both felt more sure. We made new promises, spoken and unspoken, to support each other, to stay honest, to be kind, even during difficult times, to keep choosing each other again and again. Sometimes, when I looked at Arav, I thought about the first day I saw him. how he ran to help me, how he smiled at me on the ship, how we started as strangers and slowly became something much more. Life is full of surprises, and sometimes the best ones come when you least expect them. One evening, after work, I was feeling tired. I made myself a cup of tea and sat on the couch. The sky outside was dark, and rain started to fall slowly. It reminded me of the night on the beach. The rain, the music, the fireworks, and the moment Arav said, "You are more than a friend." I smiled as I remembered. Just then, my phone lit up. It was a message from Arav, and he wrote, "Do you remember what today is?" I blinked. I wasn't sure. He replied, "1 year ago today, we met on the cruise." Suddenly, all the memories came back. My nervous presentation, the surprise trip, the boys at the dock, the ship, and him. I called him right away. "Happy meeting anniversary," I said with a laugh. "Happy meeting anniversary to you too," he said. His voice was warm and full of joy. "I have something planned for us this weekend," he said. "It's a surprise." I was curious, but I didn't ask too many questions. He loved planning surprises, and I loved letting him. That Saturday, he picked me up in the morning. We drove for about an hour. Then we stopped in front of a cozy little house with a garden. "What is this place?" I asked. "It's a guest house near a lake," he said. "We'll stay here tonight." The house was simple but beautiful. There were flowers outside the window. Inside, everything smelled like fresh wood and lavender. In the evening, we walked down to the lake. The water was still and quiet. The sky turned orange and gold as the sun went down. Arav spread a blanket on the grass. He took out some sandwiches and fruit he had packed. We sat there and talked, just like we always did. After we ate, he reached into his bag again. "I made something for you," he said. He pulled out a small photo album. Inside were pictures from our year together, the Maldives trip, our weekends in the city, our hiking trip, our visits to each other's families. Each photo had a short message next to it, written in his handwriting, funny captions, sweet notes, little jokes we shared. I turned the pages slowly, smiling with every photo. When I reached the last page, I stopped. There was no photo, just a message. It said, I didn't know what kind of gift I would win that day, but now I know. It was you. I looked up. My eyes were full of happy tears. I couldn't speak for a moment. Arav looked at me and said, "You've been the best part of my life this past year. Thank you for being my partner. I hope we keep walking together wherever life takes us." I took his hand and said, "I feel the same. I never expected this. But it's the best thing that ever happened to me." We sat there by the lake, just like we had once sat by the sea. No loud music, no fireworks, just the sound of the water, the quiet wind, and the feeling of two hearts connected. After that weekend by the lake, something in our relationship felt even stronger. Not louder, not bigger, just deeper. We had already shared so much. Now, we were beginning to talk about sharing even more. One evening, Arif and I were walking through a local market. The air smelled like fresh bread and flowers. We held hands as we looked at small shops and colorful lights. At one stall, we saw an old couple selling handmade cups. They were laughing softly together. The man gently helped the woman pick up a heavy box. Then she touched his arm and smiled. Arav turned to me and said, "Look at them. That's what I want." I smiled. "Me too," I said. He looked at me seriously. "I think love is a choice," he said. "It's not just about feeling something once. It's choosing to care." Again and again, I nodded. He was right. Love wasn't always perfect or easy, but it was real, and we were choosing each other every day. Soon after, we began talking about moving to the same city. Long distance was working for us, but we both knew we wanted more time together. "I want to wake up and have breakfast with you," he said. "I want us to walk home from work and talk about our day." We made a plan. I applied for a transfer at my office, and after a few weeks, it was approved. I was moving to his city. It felt like a big step, but it felt right. My parents were happy and a little emotional. They helped me pack. My mom gave me a small silver bracelet. "This is for luck," she said. And love. When I arrived in the new city, Arav was waiting at the train station. He had balloons in one hand and a cup of tea in the other. "Welcome home," he said. We found a small apartment not far from our offices. It had one bedroom, a little kitchen, and a balcony full of sunlight. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. We bought secondhand furniture and built it together. We painted the walls ourselves. We argued about curtain colors, then laughed and picked both. We made a new home. Living together was different. We saw each other on good days and bad ones. We learned even more. How the other person liked their coffee, how they reacted when stressed, what made them smile after a long day. Some mornings, I would wake up and find breakfast ready. He always remembered how I liked my toast golden, not too crispy. Some evenings, he would come home tired. I would greet him with a hug and his favorite snack. We created routines, but every day still felt special because we were together. One rainy evening, we sat on the floor, drinking tea and listening to soft music. I said, "Do you ever think about that competition? The one that started everything?" He laughed. All the time. I gave a 10-minute presentation and got a lifetime gift. I smiled. So did I. Then he looked at me and said, "Nisha, I know we've said this before, but I really mean it now. I can't imagine my life without you." I looked at him and felt every word in my heart. After living together for 1 year, our lives felt full of laughter, quiet moments, small adventures, and shared dreams. We weren't perfect, but we were happy. One Saturday morning, we decided to take a walk in the park. The sky was clear, birds were singing, children were playing. It felt like a peaceful, beautiful day. Arav was quiet as we walked. He held my hand tighter than usual. We stopped by a lake. There was a wooden bench under a tree. We sat down. He looked at me with gentle eyes. Then he took a deep breath. "Nisha," he said, "I still remember the day I saw you for the first time. You were strong, brave, full of energy, and you still are." I smiled. "You changed my life in ways I didn't expect," he continued. "I thought the trip to the Maldives was the gift, but the real gift was you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. My heart started to beat faster. He opened the box. Inside was a simple, beautiful ring. He looked at me and said, "Will you marry me?" Tears filled my eyes. I didn't need to think. I didn't need a perfect plan. I just said, "Yes." He stood up and hugged me. The people in the park clapped and cheered. I laughed through my happy tears. Later that evening, we told our families. Everyone was so happy. My mother cried. His father smiled proudly. We planned a small wedding by the sea, the same sea where we first met. On the day of the wedding, the sky was blue. The waves were calm. Soft music played in the background. I wore a white dress. Arav wore a light gray suit. We stood together on the sand, holding hands. We promised to support each other, to listen, to grow together, and to never stop choosing love every single day. After the ceremony, we danced under the stars, the same stars that watched over us when we first shared our feelings in the rain. I looked at Arav and whispered, "This is better than any dream." He smiled and said, "I told you, the best gifts are the ones we never expect." And he was right. From a presentation at work, to a trip to the Maldives, to a brave moment at the dock, to quiet tea and talks, to this perfect day, our story was full of surprises, kindness, and love, and it was only the beginning. Thank you for listening to this story. Now, it's time to practice. Go back to the beginning. Listen again. Repeat each sentence with me. Shadow my voice. Match the rhythm and the tone. The more you repeat, the better your speaking and listening will become. If you like this story, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. It helps more learners like you find this channel. I'm proud of you. Keep learning, keep going, and never stop believing in the power of small moments and unexpected gifts. See you in the next lesson.